Formula One at speeds of 350 kilometers per hour, NASCAR with 40 cars in a tight pack, the Dakar Rally across the endless deserts of Africa, millions of viewers around the world holding their breath following every turn, every overtake. Modern motorsport is a technological marvel, a billion-dollar industry where engineers create true works of art on wheels. But just 130 years ago, none of this existed. The first automobiles barely reached speeds of 15 kilometers per hour, 9 miles per hour, and people walked faster than these metal monsters could drive. Imagine this, you're walking on the sidewalk and overtaking a car. That's exactly what transportation looked like at the end of the 19th century. Today, you'll learn the incredible story of how a handful of madmen transformed slow carriages into rockets on wheels, and how many human lives were sacrificed in this race for speed. Stay until the end. There's a real shock waiting about how motorsport changed not only automobiles, but the entire modern world. Guys, now I urge everyone to subscribe to the channel and like the video. This is the longest and most complex video on this channel, and I spent a lot of effort and time creating it. So please support me if you want more videos like this. Now, let's get started. So, July 22nd, 1894, Paris. France was experiencing the era of industrial revolution, and city streets were filled with horse-drawn carriages and the first timid attempts to create self-propelled vehicles. On this summer day, 102 people paid 10 francs each, a considerable sum for those times, to participate in the first automobile race in human history. But here's what's surprising. Out of these 102 enthusiasts, 78 didn't show up at the start. Why? Because some planned to participate in the race with machines powered by gravity. Can you imagine? They were going to roll downhill and hoped that would be enough for 126 kilometers, 78 miles to Rouen. Others were going to use compressed air, hydraulics, levers, and even pedals, like on a bicycle. The organizer of this madness, journalist Pierre Giffard from the newspaper Le Petit Journal, announced a prize of 10,000 gold francs, an astronomical sum. But the winner should be not the fastest, but the one whose car proved to be safe, easy to handle, and cheap to operate. Essentially, this was not a race, but a reliability test. In the end, only 21 cars made it to the start. 13 of them ran on gasoline, 6 on steam, and 2 on electricity. Yes, electric cars existed as early as 1894. And you know what's most amusing? The race participants traveled at an average speed of 15 kilometers per hour, 9 miles per hour, and officially stopped for lunch at a restaurant in the town of Mons. Imagine, in the middle of a race, they had a formal dinner with white tablecloths and waiters.
First to reach the finish in Rouen was Count Jules Albert de Dion in his steam tractor pulling an open carriage. Travel time, 6 hours and 48 minutes. But he didn't get the prize. Why? Because his machine needed a stoker who constantly shoveled coal into the furnace, and according to the competition rules, the automobile had to be operated by one person. The winners were declared to be 2 drivers of Peugeot gasoline cars, Albert Lemaitre and Auguste Doriot. Their cars developed only 3 horsepower, but were recognized as the most practical. This day forever changed human history, although few understood it at the time. But the real racing fever began the following year. Émile Levasseur, one of the automotive pioneers, decided to organize a real race from Paris to Bordeaux and back, a total of 1,178 kilometers, 732 miles. And this madman drove the entire distance alone without a replacement driver in 48 hours and 48 minutes. 48 hours behind the wheel without sleep, practically without food, only with short stops for refueling and repairs. Levasseur became the first true hero of motorsport. When asked why he didn't take a replacement driver, he replied, "Only I know how to handle this machine." This phrase became the motto of all future racers. Absolute faith in oneself and one's machine. Each year, races became faster, more dangerous, and more popular. By the beginning of the 20th century, speeds had grown to 80 kilometers per hour, 50 miles per hour, which was simply unthinkable for that time. People specially traveled from other cities to see these flying machines. In 1906, the first official French Grand Prix took place. This event laid the foundation for all modern motorsport. The race lasted 2 days. Participants completed 13 laps each day, and the total distance was over 1,000 kilometers, 621 miles. Hungarian Ferenc Sis won on a Renault, developing an average speed of almost 100 kilometers per hour, 62 miles per hour. The 1920s and 1930s became the golden age of pre-war motorsport. Legendary tracks appeared. The Nürburgring in Germany, Monaco with its narrow streets, Silverstone in England. Cars became true works of engineering art. Mercedes, Auto Union, Alfa Romeo, Bugatti. These names. But already in 1946, enthusiasts began reviving racing. Abandoned military airfields began to be used as tracks. The most famous of them, Silverstone in England, where the Formula One World Championship first took place in 1950. Formula One became the crown of motorsport. The rules were simple: single-seater cars, a specific engine displacement, and let the fastest
first win. The first world champion was Italian Giuseppe Farina on an Alfa Romeo, but the real star was his compatriot Juan Manuel Fangio from Argentina, a 5-time world champion who won 24 races out of 51. Parallel to Formula One, other types of motorsport developed. In America, NASCAR was gaining popularity. Races on oval tracks where 40 cars moved in a tight pack at speeds approaching 300 kilometers per hour, 186 miles per hour. In France, the famous 24 Hours of Le Mans was held, an endurance marathon where the winner was whoever covered the greatest distance in 24 hours. But June 11, 1955, motorsport showed its most terrible side. Le Mans, 250,000 spectators, a confrontation between Mercedes and Jaguar. Speeds had grown to 270 kilometers per hour, 168 miles per hour, instead of the pre-war 100 kilometers per hour, 62 miles per hour. The track remained the same, narrow, and not adapted for such speeds. At 6:20 p.m., a drama unfolds that will shock the entire world. Mike Hawthorne in a Jaguar receives a signal from mechanics to enter the pits for refueling. He catches up to the slower car of Lance Macklin in an Austin Healey and overtakes it, but then he brakes sharply right in front of Macklin to enter the pits. Macklin is forced to brake hard and swerve left to avoid collision. At this moment, Pierre Leveg's Mercedes arrives at a speed of 200 kilometers per hour, 124 miles per hour. The French driver simply doesn't have time to react. At the last moment, he raises his hand, warning Fangio behind him, and this gesture saves Fangio's life. Leveg's Mercedes rams into the rear of the Austin Healey and soars into the air like a ramp. The car flies at 200 kilometers per hour, 124 miles per hour, straight into the grandstand where spectators are sitting.
The consequences of the catastrophe were colossal. France cancelled all car races on its territory. Germany cancelled the Grand Prix. Switzerland banned motorsport completely, and this ban remained in effect until 2022. Spain and Mexico also introduced complete bans. Mercedes-Benz stopped participating in racing for 30 years, but motorsport survived and continued to develop. True, now safety became a priority. They began improving tracks, installing barriers, developing protective equipment for drivers. For the first time, requirements for physical training appeared, medical examinations, limits on the amount of fuel in tanks. The 60s and 70s became the true golden age of motorsport. Legends appeared whose names every speed lover knows. Jim Clark, a Scottish farmer who won 25 Formula One races and the Indianapolis 500 in one season. Sterling Moss, an Englishman who won 212 races out of 529 but never became world champion. Technology developed at incredible speed. Turbo engines first appeared in motorsport, producing up to 1,500 horsepower in qualification. Aerodynamic bodywork turned cars into real missiles. Engines roared so loudly that spectators in the stands couldn't hear each other, but the price of progress remained high. Over 10 years, from 1964 to 1974, 15 drivers died in Formula One. 15! This meant that every 8 months, motorsport lost one of its heroes. Jackie Stewart, 3-time world champion, called this time the killer years. Drivers wrote wills before each race. Stewart began a real war for safety. He demanded track improvements, mandatory use of helmets and seatbelts, medical posts at every track. Many considered him a coward, but Stewart continued to fight. He said death should not be part of the show. The safety revolution happened in the 70s. The first energy-absorbing barriers appeared, helmets improved, safety cages began to be installed in cars. The number of deaths sharply decreased, but the problem couldn't be completely solved. In the 80s, big money came to motorsport. Sponsors invested millions of dollars in teams. Drivers became international celebrities. Ayrton Senna from Brazil became a real superstar, a 3-time world champion who earned millions but spent them helping poor children in his country. Senna was a special driver. On Friday, during practice, Brazilian Rubens Barrichello crashed. He survived but received serious injuries. On Saturday, during qualifying, Austrian Roland Ratzenberger died. His car hit a concrete wall at 300 kilometers per hour, 186 miles per hour. Senna came to the accident site and stood by the wrecked car for a long time. On Saturday evening, Senna called an emergency meeting of drivers. He proposed recreating the Grand Prix Drivers Association, which would fight for safety. Senna was ready to lead this organization. Many remember that he was very serious and spoke about bad premonitions. May 1st, Sunday, morning warm-up. Senna shows the best time, ahead of his nearest rival by almost a second. But his Williams team has problems with the new FW16 car. After the ban on electronic aids, the car became unstable and poorly controllable. Senna complains that he doesn't feel the car. Race starts. Already at the first turn, a serious accident. A collision of 2 cars leads to spectator injuries. The safety car comes out and drives for 5 laps. During this time, tires cool down, and Senna's car develops handling problems on cold tires. 7th lap. 2:17 p.m., Senna is leading the race and enters the fast Tamburello corner at 300 kilometers per hour, 186 miles per hour. Suddenly, the car loses control and flies straight into the concrete wall, an impact of monstrous force. The right front wheel breaks off and hits Senna in the head. Neurosurgeon Sid Watkins, Formula One's chief chief medical officer, is first to reach the accident site. Later, he would say, "I understood from his neurological reactions that this was a fatal head injury." Then he sighed, his body relaxed, and at that moment his spirit left his body. But officially, Senna was declared dead only at Bologna Hospital at 7:40 p.m. Italy didn't want the driver to die on track. In that case, the race would have to be immediately stopped and an investigation begun. Senna's death shocked the entire world. In Brazil, 3 days of national mourning were declared. 3 million people came to his funeral in Sao Paulo, more than to the funeral of any president or king. The coffin was carried on a fire truck, and people lined up in a living corridor for many kilometers.
But motorsport isn't just about tragedies. It's also about incredible technological achievements that changed the entire automotive world. Every technology in your car was first tested in racing by people risking their lives at 300 kilometers per hour, 186 miles per hour. ABS, anti-lock braking system, first tested in Formula 1 in the 70s. Today, it saves thousands of lives on roads. Disc brakes, Jaguar used them at Le Mans in 1953 and won the race precisely thanks to braking superiority. Turbocharging, Renault in Formula 1 proved that a small engine with a turbo could be more powerful than a large, naturally aspirated one. Carbon fiber, which today is used in aircraft and spacecraft, was first applied in Formula 1. The aerodynamics of modern cars was developed in racing teams' wind tunnels. Even the GPS system in your phone owes its development to the Dakar Rally, where navigation was a matter of life and death in the desert. Hybrid technologies? Many think Toyota invented them for the Prius. Actually, hybrid systems first appeared at Le Mans in the 90s. Teams realized that combining an internal combustion engine and electric motor gave an advantage in fuel economy, meaning fewer stops for refueling. Even such mundane things as seatbelts, airbags, energy-absorbing crumple zones, all this was first tested in motorsport. Racers were guinea pigs for technologies that later saved millions of lives on roads. In the 2000s, motorsport became a truly high-tech industry. Formula 1 teams spend hundreds of millions of dollars a year on development. They have supercomputers, wind tunnels, simulators that are more accurate than reality. Michael Schumacher became the first driver of the new era. He won 7 world championships and showed that a modern driver must be not only fast, but incredibly professional. Schumacher trained like an Olympic athlete, studied every detail on track, worked with engineers to improve the car. Lewis Hamilton continued this tradition, winning 7 world championships and becoming the most successful driver in history by number of victories. But Hamilton is more than a driver. He fights for ecology, for human rights, for equality in sport. Brazil even gave him honorary citizenship for his contribution to motorsport development in that country. At first, many were skeptical about Formula E. Batteries lasted only half the race, so drivers changed cars right during the race. This looked absurd. Imagine if in the middle of a football match, players changed into new uniforms. But technology developed rapidly. Within a few years, batteries became more powerful, cars faster, and races more exciting. The best drivers from other series came to Formula E, including Formula 1 champions. Major automakers, Mercedes, BMW, Audi, Porsche, began investing millions in electric technology development. Today, Formula E is a full world championship with modern cars that develop 350 horsepower and accelerate to 280 kilometers per hour, 174 miles per hour. Technologies developed for Formula E are directly used in production electric cars from Tesla, BMW, Mercedes, and other manufacturers. But that's not all. Motorsport continues to evolve. Today, autonomous car races already exist. Cars without drivers, controlled by artificial intelligence. Robots compete at 300 kilometers per hour, 186 miles per hour, while engineers control them remotely. Virtual reality allows anyone to sit behind the wheel of a Formula 1 car and feel G-forces in corners. Esports in racing simulators has become so realistic that real drivers use it for training, and some sim racers become real professional drivers. Completely new types of motorsport are appearing. Drone racing, where pilots control flying machines through virtual reality. Extreme rallying on electric cars in the most inaccessible places on the planet. Hydrogen car racing, which, instead of exhaust gases, produces only water vapor. Even space hasn't been left out. Projects for races on the Moon and Mars are already being developed. Imagine cars flying across the lunar surface in low-gravity conditions. This sounds like science fiction, but just 50 years ago, people didn't believe that humans could fly to the moon. From 21 madmen on steam machines in 1894 to technologies that will soon send racing cars into space, motorsport has changed your world more than you thought. Every time you get in a car, you're using technologies invented by heroes who risked their lives at 300 kilometers per hour, 186 miles per hour, for the sake of progress, adrenaline, and the eternal human desire to go faster than anyone else.